Hello and welcome to How Hollywood Works. I'm your host, Molly Hirsch, and today we are thrilled to be joined by the very talented and very funny Wll Arnett. Thank you so much for coming. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. So, Wll, you're currently starring in the #1 movie in America, Ninja Turtles. You are working on the second season of The Millers, which is this huge show, and you just released that there's another season of Arrested Development coming out, and you have another animated show coming out in 2 days. So you're very busy and very successful. How does it feel to be you right now? What does it feel like?
It feels like, I guess it would be like the same feeling as reaching the top of a mountain, and then like the top of the mountain all of a sudden lifted off with rockets, and then it went up into space, and it landed on a planet, and then, but on the top of a mountain, on top, so it's still on top of the first mountain, landing on the top of another mountain on a different planet, and then taking off from there. It's kind of like that, infinity.
Wow.
No, you know what? Truthfully, it feels good. It's been a fun summer. Happy that the turtles did well, and yeah, just having a good time.
Would you consider this feeling of the mountains and mountains and mountains being different from how you felt when you were a regular on Arrested Development?
That was a dark period of my life. Thank you for bringing that up, Molly. How serious can we get on this interview? Pretty serious?
Oh, we're going deep.
Good. I don't think we have enough Kleenex for my tears. No, you know what? When we were making Arrested Development, really fun experience. And it was a multi-tiered experience because we made the show originally, we shot the pilot when you were probably 7 years old or something. And, it was a long time ago. And we did a few seasons. And we were a show that didn't get a lot of ratings when it was originally on the air.
Yeah.
So that was that became, the experience that I was used to. And then 7, 8 years later, whatever it was, we made the 4th season for Netflix, which is a terrific company. I really love Netflix. And, we got to do it again. So it's been kind of an experience that has changed. And that's kind of one of those things about life. You never really know what something's going to be. You have a preconceived notion that like, I'm doing this show and it's going to be like this. And then it takes on a life of its own. And we got all these fans. And even though it wasn't like a ratings hit, it became kind of like a cult favorite in a way. And people brought it back. So that was really cool.
That has come back. Even you're doing another season.
And now we're going to do another one. And
I'm so excited
who knows
to
what
hear
that's
about.
going to be. Yeah.
So going from that to what you say is like the highest point in your career so far, where do you envision the ultimate pinnacle of your career being?
I don't know. I think that, that's another funny thing, is that you kind of, I think that when I was younger, I thought, I want to get here and I want to do that. And I sort of thought about it in those terms of like pinnacle and whatever. And now I don't really think of it that way. It's much more about just being in the moment and being happy and grateful on a day-to-day basis. And that's kind of what makes me happy. So a few years ago, I'm really happy. I have 2 little boys. I have 2 young kids, and they bring me the most joy, and everything else is kind of gravy. And really, day to day, I just try to be happy in the moment. That's another one of those things. I just try to sort of seize the moment every day and let the pinnacles and the peaks and stuff take care of themselves. But really just try to enjoy what you're doing. That's the key, is just enjoy what you're doing and be grateful.
Yeah. Nice message. So you talked about your kids and your family, but take me to your roots. How did your family shape, or where you were from, how did that shape you as a person and point you in this direction?
Well, I grew up in Canada. I grew up in Toronto, and I think that my family they're great, super supportive. I'm really lucky and blessed with great parents and sisters and brother, and we grew up in a family that liked to laugh a lot, and Canada has, I think that there is a sort of a feeling of, there's a little bit more, at least at the time, welcoming of a sort of a drier humor that allowed me to kind of, I think that kind of shaped a lot of what I thought was funny. And we, I think that there were a lot of, Canada's a kind of place that it's very similar to the States culturally, but it's just a little bit different. And we did kind of come out of that sort of British sensibility, I think, a little bit. By the way, what I'm saying is not science, it's just my opinion. And I failed science. I got to be honest about that. I didn't fail. I didn't do great. I should have failed. I cheated in science. No, I didn't cheat. There's somebody else. I peaked. Point is, I think that my dad was a business guy. He was like a lawyer, and then he was a business guy. And I think that what I did was kind of strange for them. But it also, I kind of wanted to not do that. So I had this kind of, I don't know. I didn't have a typical sort of comedians. I don't know what the typical comedians are. I'm not even a comedian. I'm a comedic actor. I'm an actor. I know it's a terrible answer, but it's the truth.
No. So your family is, like you were saying, very, very different than what you've become.
Yeah.
Were they supportive of your choice in career?
They were supportive. I think that when I first told my folks, I went to college, and before that, they knew I was interested in the kind of the arts and acting, and they were like, okay, great, but you should do this. And I went to college, and I had this feeling in Canada, and I had this feeling that I was kind of not on the path that I wanted to be on. So I talked to my dad, and I said, listen, I want to drop out of college, and this is what I want to do. I want to go down to New York, and I want to become an actor, and I want to go to theater school. And I think he was nervous. Again, like my dad went to Harvard. He was a very kind of straight-laced and smart guy. I think when your kid comes to you and says that, it makes him nervous. But, I got to give him credit for seeing that it was important for me to follow what I wanted to do. And he helped me follow through on that and be serious about that. And that was great. And I honestly, I'm very thankful to this day that he encouraged me to do that. He was always a very fair guy, my dad, and he still is. And he always made me earn it too. When I wanted to move to New York, he didn't just give it to me. He supported me, but he wasn't just like, hey, here's a ton of dough at all. And I think that's important too. I don't think you learn anything in this life if you're just given everything. And that's the greatest disservice a parent can do to their kid, is just to give them stuff, I think.
So you were saying you dropped out of school and had this whole plan of going to acting school and pursuing this career. What influenced you to have that, to want to be an actor?
Well, you know what? When I was young at school, when I was in sort of 7th grade, I goofed around a lot. I was kind of a class clown, if you will. And I had a teacher who said to me, they were doing a school play for the junior school at this school I went to. I went away to boarding school when I was 12, and they said, we're doing this play. And I think that they looked at it more like it was something that would occupy my time so I wouldn't goof around. It's like a way to channel my energy. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. But I didn't really, it wasn't something that I was actively seeking out. And I ended up doing this play, and it worked out pretty great. I think that I did a decent job, and they're like, oh, this is maybe something he'd be good at. And that really kind of, when I first did that first production, I was like, hey, this is really fun. I really like it. And so then I wanted to do more of it, and I ended up leaving boarding school. I went to a school in Toronto where I was able to actually, in high school, go and work and take classes and work at this professional theater and get high school credit for it. And it was a big part of, sort of shaping my future, because it was, I was super into it. And so I would go, and I ended up going to this real sort of alternative high school that I ended up graduating from. And I got to go and work with a lot of older people and actors and writers and directors, and it was a great, great, great experience.
Yeah. So from that, I would definitely say that Man Witch was the ultimate big break for your career.
Yes, the Manwich commercial was a real stepping stone for me.
Totally.
Yeah, it was my first. I think that was my first professional gig, and at the time, to get a commercial, like a national commercial, was a big deal for me.
And you got to eat a burger.
And I got to eat a burger repeatedly, and then you take a bite and then you spit it out. They got a guy there with a bucket right off camera. You take the big bite and they yell cut and you spit it out because it's so gross. And there was a kid doing another commercial for Manwich at the same time, and he wouldn't spit it out. He kept saying that he liked it. And they're like, no, you got to spit it out. I was like, no, I really like it. And he kept eating it, and then he ended up barfing.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, kids, if you don't want to barf, don't eat the burger.
Don't eat the burger.
Stop switching cameras on me.
You heard it here first from the man who did the commercial. Don't eat it. So I interviewed Mitch Hurwitz, who's the creator of Arrested Development, and
Yes.
he was kind of telling us about they had trouble finding the right role to play Job, the character, and the kind of unconventional way of you landing your role as Job. So can you tell us a little bit about that from your perspective?
Yeah, I was sent the sides, so just the pages for the scenes they were auditioning, not even the full script at first. And I was kind of in a weird place in my life. I was living in New York, and I was rehearsing a play, and I ended up, they faxed them over to me. This is back when we used to have fax machines, if you guys probably don't know what that is. And I was taking the subway uptown to go put myself on tape for it, kind of reading this thing. I was like, well, this is weird. And I was just trying to make it kind of interesting to me. And so I went in and I read with the casting director, and I just responded to the way that Mitch had written the scene. The first time you see Job, I think it's in the pilot. It was in the script, and I know we shot it, but I think it's there. Gosh, I don't even remember. It's been so long. But I come up, we're down at the marina, and Michael is there, played by Jason Bateman, and he says, and he's talking to a guy who's the captain of the ship, and Job rolls in on the Segway, and he says, there he is, there's my brother Job, how are you? And Job's first line in the show is, incredible. I'm having an incredible year. And there was something about that that just made me laugh. Like that's the first introduction to a character, is that he's so confident about how he's having this incredible year. Clearly he's not, we find out. And that was so funny to me. That's such a funny, I love characters who are kind of dumb and really confident. That makes me laugh. So I kind of did that, and then I put myself on tape, and I didn't think about it again. And then they called and said they wanted me to come out here to go to the network and meet with everybody. I came out and met with Mitch, and we had a great. I had a work session with Mitch and the Russo brothers, who directed the pilot and a lot of the first season, and they're. You guys would know them from, maybe they did Captain America: Winter Soldier, the one that just came out. And they're great guys, great directors. And they said, so I was working with them and Mitch, and then I had to go in for a big audition, the final thing for the network, just over here at Fox. And right before we went in, Mitch Hurwitz says to me, okay, so just remember what we did, and you're going to get the part. And blah, blah, blah. And I said, don't ever say that to an actor before he's going in, like that's a curse, And he's like, I know, but you're gonna get it. So anyway, I went and did it, and it ended up happening.
Yeah, and you being that role kind of helped save the show, because.
Well, well, yeah, in the sense that they were having the pilot was contingent on, if they couldn't find that part, the pilot would fall apart. Yeah. So in that sense, yeah, and. It was a big, it was weird, It was one of those, like, again, like you never know where life is going to take you. And I was rehearsing this play in New York, and one day I go in and read for this thing. 3 days later, I'm here. I've got the pilot, and I stayed here because I had to go right into shooting. And I was here for like 3 weeks, and Arrested Development changed my life, like that. Yeah.
Crazy. So you've been on Arrested Development and also Running Wild and The Millers and Up All Night. How does the experience differ from one show to the next, being on the set and the crew and the whole environment? How does it change?
It's always just a matter of chemistry. It's just elements. All of those shows that I've been a part of have great people. And that's one of the beauties of doing what I do, is that you get to just really work with really talented people all the time. Talented, funny, smart, cool, interesting. And the difference is that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And if there was a way to kind of look into the future and say, oh, is this going to work? You never know. You know, Running Wild was something that Mitch and I wrote together and with Jimmy Valley, and something we created together, and we really we had high hopes for, and it made us laugh. And to be honest, we still talk about it to this day. We have moments where we talk about missed opportunities, not so much like, oh man, but just more like, oh, remember? And you just never know how those pieces are going to come together, and it's just another one of those like crazy things about life. You can plan as much as you want, but things have sometimes work out and sometimes they don't. But the common denominator is great people, great experiences. Even, I learn I always find that I learn way more from the experiences that don't work out than I do from the ones that do. Those are the ones where you, in a short period of time, often learn a lot of lessons and kind of go, oh yeah, maybe if we. I don't spend a lot of time regretting, but learning certainly, yeah.
Changes and everything.
Yeah,
for sure. Another difference, because we've heard this from Mitch's perspective, being the creator of Arrested Development. How does being an actor, how does it differ working for Arrested Development, filming for a TV network versus for Netflix?
Well, it's a very different process, because for the network, when we're doing like the original version, and all due respect to everybody at the network, it's just they answer to a different master, in the sense that it's driven purely by ratings, and the ratings and ratings determine the ad sales, and ad sales determine revenue for the company, and the company is a huge multinational publicly traded company. And if they're not getting the revenue, then the stock price begins to, and if they're not growing revenue, the stock price falls, and then so there's a clear line between what you do and the ratings and your longevity on the air. So it's such a, unfortunately, that's the problem, because we're at the end of the day we're selling toothpaste. Anytime you do a show on network TV, in a lot of ways, that's what you're doing. That's the deal. I'm not begrudging it. With somebody like Netflix, you do have the advantage of it's not so much about that. They don't release their ratings, first of all, and they give you a lot more freedom to say, like, hey, we hired you to do what you do. Go ahead and do it. And certainly in Arrested Development's case, I got to say that on the Millers, it's never felt that way. At CBS, it's always been a pretty great, in terms of notes and stuff. They've let Greg Garcia, who created that show, The Millers, and who runs our show as a head writer, awesome guy. CBS has been really great at letting him do what he wants to do. But for sure, back on Arrested Development, back in the day, we were ratings challenged, and so we didn't have as much. Mitch did have to answer to a different thing, and it's harder. On Netflix, at Netflix, it's been kind of a great home for Arrested Development because of that. It's because that show needs to, in terms of creatively anyway, it needs to be able to go in a million different directions. That's when it works its best.
Yeah, and your relationship with Netflix continues to grow. You
Yeah.
have a show, BoJack Horseman, which is, I've seen clips, it looks hilarious.
Yes.
Coming out in 2 days now?
Yeah, it comes out August 22nd. Yeah, August 22nd. BoJack Horseman, really fun show, and with also with Aaron Paul and Alison Brie, Amy Sedaris, Paul F. Tompkins.
Can't go wrong.
Cannot go wrong. It's very funny, very subversive, and yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and another season of Arrested Development. Is there anything that you can share with us that's going to be on this new season?
You know what? I really don't know. There are a lot of possibilities, and I kind of know the direction we're going, but in terms of what's going to happen, I don't really know.
Well, I'm very excited, and just for anyone who is looking to be in your shoes one day and at this height and success and wants to be you. What kind of...
Don't do it. Don't be me.
What kind of advice would you give to kids like that?
I would say just do... My only advice would be to do life is now. Live in the moment. Be... and kind of do what makes you happy. And if you have something that you do want to... You hear people say all the time, follow your dreams and all that. But there's a certain truth to it, which is like, yeah, do something that you're interested in doing. And so if it is, for instance, being an actor or anything or in the arts, that's a kind of a scary thing sometimes to get into, and it's hard. I know that it's hard for parents to come to grips with that, but you know, if it's something that really you drive a lot of happiness out of, then do it, and don't give up.
There you go.
Yeah.
And spit out that burger.
And spit out the burger. For sure, spit out the burger.
Okay.
Unless you're addicted to barfing.
And yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
If you want to barf, then go eat a manwich burger.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Okay, well, this has been How Hollywood Works, and I'm so happy that you came. You're the best.
Thank you.
And
better than Mitch Hurwitz, right?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wll Arnett, and you are watching KBEV Channel 6. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean that to be threatening.